Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Kisha Tracy from English Studies, and I'm also the chair of the General Education Program here at Fitchburg State. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about student and faculty communication, talking to each other, what office hours are about, all kinds of different topics related to that. And we have a great panel today. We have Dr. Katy Covino from English Studies. We have Dr. Ben Levy from Mathematics, Dr. Ozge Ozay from Economics, History, and Political Science, and Dr. Kori Ryan from Behavioral Sciences. So we have 3 questions that the panelists are going to give some of their thoughts and responses on. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first question is, how can a student prepare to talk with an instructor?
So I have some thoughts about that. Thanks, Dr. Tracy. So students can prepare to talk to instructors by thinking carefully about their question or concern. Having a clear question or concern is a good way to start a conversation, especially with an instructor that you don't know or that you don't know well. So if you're able to come up with a specific question about your assignments or assessments or class, some examples from English might be, how can I improve my transitions in this paragraph? Or how can I embed my sources more smoothly? That can provide a good, clear, solid starting place for the conversation. Instructors, we want to help you. We want to know how we can help you in our classes. We're eager to meet with you to make sure that you feel confident in meeting our expectations. So maybe starting with a clear, specific question would be a good way to begin the conversation.
I think I would just also emphasize sort of one of those last points, which is we're really just out there to help you. And so the most important thing is that you take the initiative to just seek the help. And I wouldn't get yourself bogged down too much and, don't try to avoid the meeting just because you don't prepare well enough. But just to piggyback off that, if you want to make the most out of it, yes, having your notes prepared and having a clear idea is really helpful. And, from math perspective, I almost never write new notes on the board or anything when I'm with a student. I mostly help them understand the notes that we learned in class. And so having those notes and the things that we've done in class handy is important.
Great. So our next question is, how would you explain what an office hour is? And is it the only time students can talk to their instructor one-on-one?
So I have some thoughts on that one. I've seen office hours referred to as student hours elsewhere, and I wish it's something that we embraced a little bit more at Fitchburg State, because the idea behind an office hour is that it's time for us outside of class to meet with our students. And I know sometimes I'm guilty of trying to shovel food in my face and do a couple quick things, and then a student comes by and then I'm a little bit scattered. But the idea really is that students can stop by our office and just meet with us, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about assignments. And I think that's a huge misconception about the student/office hours, is that they're just for assignments, that your faculty is too busy. But please come by and talk to us about our fields or any interests you have, because if we aren't experts, we probably know who is, so we're happy to refer you to someone else or make that soft connection. So use us to better understand what you're doing in class. Use us and our office hours/student hours to explore your careers, even if it's not a career interest, if it's just a human interest. And, oh, I saw this on the news and I'd like to explore it a little bit more with someone. We love that. That's why we went into teaching. That's why we went into our fields. So I definitely say that student hours are meant for you to be able to connect with your professors. And it's not just for the here and now. It gives you an opportunity to develop relationships for letters of recommendation in the future. I've written, I know everyone here has probably written countless, not just letters of recommendation for graduate school, but references for jobs. I know in human services, it's very much like a gatekeeping. We don't want people going into the field who don't work very well with people. So we want to make sure that we're opening doors for you by getting to know you and spending time together and letting us know you as much as you can kind of get to know us, and know that. I'd say the last thing I'd really want folks to know about office hours is that we're people too, and we enjoy having those conversations. And I think after a year of doing this via Zoom, we will welcome having students in our office even more than we did before. So student hours, office hours are your time to just connect with us. And I'll address the second one after others have a chance to kind of weigh in with the student hour piece.
I also wanted to say that, the questions and the feedback and the issues do not have to be content related. Especially in the beginning of the semester, you can always come in to just introduce yourself or just talk about the subject itself. And, it's a shame that so many of the office hours, actually, especially in the beginning of the semester, I don't really have students coming in, and I did think about maybe to require, especially first-year students, to actually come to my office hours, in the first 2 weeks and so on. But yeah, we are, sitting there and just waiting for the students and any of the questions, especially if you think that you fall behind and you wanted to come up with a plan to catch up, and even if you were not on top of your workload and so on, I think it's a good idea to just, come and communicate with your instructor.
I agree. I would love to see students earlier in the semester than I feel like I do. I feel like I don't see students, and then at the end of the semester, I see lots of students with lots of concerns. But I would love to see students earlier. If you have a question, even sometimes for classes that, at the very beginning, if you're not sure if that class is for you, you can come, we can talk about the class more fully. And if the class is not for you, I can help guide you into another class if that's not a good fit for you. Those questions and concerns, the earlier they're addressed, the better, for everyone. And my earlier advice about having a specific question, that can be a good way to begin the conversation. But in terms of office hours with professors that you know well, that's often when I meet with my research assistants. So it's a great time to do work with students, data analysis or writing. I've also had, as Dr. Ryan said, I've also had students come in and just, talk about life or talk about jobs or talk about grad school. I've had students come in and just eat in my office. We're eating lunch together. So no matter if you know the professor or not, that can be a good place to get to know your professor more. And as Dr. Ryan said earlier, we're happy to see you. We're waiting there for you. So that's my take on office hours.
I can speak, I think, for everybody on this call that we all take a future colleagues approach, right? You're not just our students, you're going into our fields. And I know many of us continue working with students even after they've graduated and in various forms. So we want you to come to office hours, student hours, so that we know who our colleagues are too. And I can't even tell you how many students now that I've had that are supervisors, and I can contact them and say, hey, I have a great student for you, or, oh, I became aware of this opportunity. Would you like to join with us in it? So this is an opportunity for you to network with your future colleagues. And Kisha, do you want me to talk about that second part?
Yes, please.
So the answer, the question is the only time that you can talk to us during our office hours? And for me, the answer is no. And I very sincerely hope that's the case for every faculty member on campus. I can't speak for everyone, but I'm always open to appointments, emails. Now we have the beauty and disaster that is Zoom and Google Meet. So there's always an opportunity for other times. Catch me in the hallway, catch me after class or before class. And I will say, don't get offended if I'm running off somewhere else, but know, and I think this is really important for us as faculty to say too, your time and connection is really important to us. If now is not a good time, please get in touch with me so that we can connect. You've probably seen at least one of us running around campus like, oh, I gotta get to this meeting, I gotta do this class. So it's definitely nothing personal, and I hope that no student ever takes it personally. And just know that there's always a time, and we'll find that time. So be persistent, and I just really encourage you to find what works. And I know this isn't the case for every professor, but once in a while, I know students have weird hours. Sometimes I do calls after my daughter goes to bed. I usually reserve weekends to try and do family time, but I can certainly be flexible as much as is possible. So definitely students can talk to their instructors other times one-on-one, and it's certainly encouraged.
I love everything that everybody has said, and I really like the idea of changing it to student hours. I think we should advocate for that. I do want to emphasize, I mean, the one thing that I really see is, students saying, well, I don't want to take up your time. And it's like, no, this is your time, right? This is the time that I've actually set aside for you, above and beyond all the rest of the time, but so that you can actually use this. So I love what all of you have emphasized here. And our third question, are all questions important?
Yeah, I'd like to start off with that one. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I think my internet's having a little bit of an issue right now. Let me know if I'm not coming through okay. But yeah, all questions are critically important. To me, one of the most important parts of your education should be sort of working out those details that aren't entirely clear. Sometimes people do that independently, but oftentimes I think it does require some support, either from professor or outside resources. Kind of building in the last couple, my answer to the last couple questions, we're generally there for you and to help you understand things, the student. And so to me, I'm always available outside of class at lots of different times in the evening, throughout the day, et cetera. But we are very busy people as professors. And so it can be hard to nail people down sort of in those intermediate stages. As Professor Ryan was sort of saying, oftentimes we're scrambling around campus. And so these office hours are just a time where the professor's sitting there waiting for you to talk to them. There are lots of other times available, but those are the times where we just know where they are and they're there, for me, hoping students are going to come by and ask those questions. And so when you're thinking about trying to get all your questions answered, and I know it's really common to think that your question doesn't matter, or if it's dumb, that's super common in math especially. As I said, those are the critically important questions to ask, but oftentimes you can, from personal experience, you can feel strange or shy asking them in front of other people. So to emphasize office hours again, those are a great time to not feel afraid to ask those questions. I try, and I know a lot of people at Fitchburg State try to make a welcoming environment in class, but again, that the office hours are the time where it's just you and the professor usually, and you can not feel bad about asking really anything, and getting that help you need.
I have a brief story about office hours and asking questions, if you would indulge me for just a second. When I was an undergrad, I went to Northeastern, and I was more of a social psychology, forensic psychology emphasis, but I decided in my brilliance to take advanced psychobiology seminar. And I had never taken biology. I had taken a few psychology related classes, but my professor was a neuroscientist, and the class was way above my head. And it took all of my pride to get to his office. And by the time I even went to his office hours, I had spent all my energy just getting there. And I just sat and cried because I didn't understand anything. And he didn't make me feel ashamed at all. I cried many times in his office. I went to every office hour the entire semester. He knew to wait for me. Oh, here comes Kori and she's crying again. But I got through that course with a B-, and it was the best B- I ever got, because he not only talked to me about understanding what felt like really stupid questions to me, because everyone else in the class had taken bios. They knew what they had a baseline. I didn't. And it always stuck with me. And he was one of the reasons why I felt like I was capable of pursuing graduate school. He'd sit with me and talk to me about grant writing and his field and how he chose his specialty and how it related to the course material. So to go back to, Ben's emphasis or Dr. Levy's emphasis that all questions are important. All questions are important. And even those, what you think are dumb questions, are actually, probably hiding some other questions that you really want to ask. And they can be a nice soft open for you, a little softball for us. So don't be afraid to ask the questions and open that line of communication, because you probably have ones that you think are dumber that are actually even better than the ones that you started with. So ask away. And again, if a professor ever shames you for asking a stupid question, that's on them, not you.
I would just echo what all of my colleagues here have said about all questions being important. I totally believe that. And I've also had folks crying in my office, and sometimes it's about English and sometimes it's not. And sometimes I have the answer and sometimes I don't. So part of my job as a professor is to figure out, do I have the answer to your question? And if I don't, how can I help you get the answer to your question? Maybe your question is at the registrar, maybe it's at financial services, maybe it's at student support services, maybe it's at the tutor's office. I don't know where the answer is, but your question is important. It's my job to help you get an answer. If I don't have the answer, it's my job to help you find it. And so that's part of what office hours is there for also.
I also wanted to add that, if a student has a question in their mind, it is very possible that other students have that very question in their mind too. So it helps me actually when they ask questions, like even like it could be during the office hours or during the class time, that sometimes I don't really understand what seems to be the issue, but if one person asks and I see that other people have the same sort of like issue, I can go and explain it again in a different way. So it is actually helpful for me too as a professor when students do ask questions.
Yeah, I often tell my students, as much as it pains me, I don't have any superpowers and I can't read people's minds. So as much as I can anticipate questions as a teacher, until I hear them and know them, there's some questions that I may not even know exist. So thank you to all of our panel today. I hope you as students can see that we're here for you and that you are more than welcome to come in and talk to us. And we want you to come in and talk to us. And we're waiting for you to come in and talk to us about any questions that you might have. So everyone, have a great day.